How's everyone doing? This is a What Didn't Make the Shelf video, and this is an all 4K edition with 24 titles. Let me know if you've seen any of these movies and what you think of them, and let me know which one of these is your favorite. Leave me all of those comments down below. And this video is a, what didn't make the shelf video, aka what didn't make the collection. There are movies in here that I do enjoy. Some are upgrades, some that I have duplicates of. Sometimes I buy lots of movies and I'll, in the stack, they have it pre-priced, so I'm not going to, haggle with them if I already have a movie in there. So that's how I get duplicates sometimes. And yeah, there's ones in here also that I think, they're good for a one-time watch. But if I can't see myself rewatching a movie, it's got to go. Space is at a premium. This is like half the collection, what you see right here. So yeah, I don't want to keep things in my collection that I don't like or I can't see myself rewatching. I see people on here and on other social platforms talking about they have movies in their collection that they hate, that they'll never watch again. Or I've seen people, in fact, say, they buy movies which they never plan to open or watch, which is just mind-blowing to me. I don't understand that at all. And I see people say, they have thousands of movies that they've never opened. And I don't understand that mindset. Everybody collects differently, but that seems more like a hoarding thing. And I don't know. I want to have movies in my collection that I love. So that's where I'm at. And this is a cathartic process. Every couple days or so, I try to go through, a shelf and pick one out. And when I get a stack, not necessarily 24 titles like this one, but around 10 or so, I'll do a video like this. So look forward to a lot more of these videos coming up in the future. And again, this is all 4Ks. Now, again, there are some in here that I have duplicates of. So I'll talk about that. First up is Crimes of the Future. I have a duplicate of this one. Only reason why I'm getting rid of it. I actually really enjoyed the heck out of this one. David Cronenberg. Let me know what your favorite David Cronenberg movie is. Of course, known for like the body horror. I really love Videodrome. That's probably my favorite. The Brood would probably be number 2. His son, Brandon Cronenberg, obviously influenced by his father, but he has some great films. I haven't seen Infinity Pool yet, but I've heard a lot of hype for it. Possessor had a lot of hype. I feel like it was a little bit more style over substance for me on that one, but I still enjoyed it. But Antiviral, super underrated. Definitely my favorite from him that I've seen of those two. And I do plan to check out Infinity Pool soon. But Antiviral deserves way more love. But this one was just a creepy, bizarre film. Again, more in line with the body horror. I think it was like, I want to say like 8 years or so since he directed his last film, Map of the Stars, which I feel like was, haven't seen it, but I've heard it was a departure from his, norm essentially. But I can't wait to see what he directs in the future, and hopefully it won't take 8 years to do so. I like the casting here too. Viggo Mortensen, Kristen Stewart, Leah Sado. I didn't used to be a big Kristen Stewart fan, but I'm definitely a fan now. Personal Shopper, she blew me away in that one. It was the Clouds of Sils Maria too. There's a few other ones, but she was really good in here. So definitely enjoy this one. If you're a fan of Cronenberg and body horror, I definitely recommend checking it out. Only reason I'm getting rid of it is because I got a duplicate of it. Now, Killer's Kiss. Stanley Kubrick right here. Kino Lorber release. Nice slipcover. Bought this off of Amazon. And I was disappointed. I thought it was just very basic. About a boxer who gets, wrapped up in a romance. And then there's a jealous boss of the girl right there. And I don't know. This is early Kubrick. Let me know what your favorite Stanley Kubrick movie is. And I know for the Criterion Collection, I think it was The Killing, for that release for it, they have Killer's Kiss as just a bonus feature on there. And, I guess if you are a completionist, you want all the films, but this just, it sets the groundwork for some of his, bigger titles to come. But it was basic. It's something that I don't see myself rewatching again, so I'm going to get rid of it. Didn't stand out to me. So that's why I'm getting rid of this one. I really wanted to like it more than I did. Next up is Pray for the Devil, which I have a third copy, actually. This is directed by Daniel Stamm, who did The Last Exorcism, which I love the heck out of that one. Super underrated. Gets a lot of criticism, but I think Ashley Bell's the lead actress. She does those contortionist movements. She was awesome in there. And I love that, found footage, and the last shot, too, was so creepy and perfect. This one, however, was a big disappointment, but he does those exorcism movies. And I think they really dropped the ball marketing-wise in here because it has Tony from 13 Reasons Why, super popular series. And then they have Virginia Madsen in here too. And in the trailers, like I didn't see either of them. They weren't, prominently displayed, and they're in here a fair amount. So yeah, this is just a super basic exorcism possession movie. Nothing really stands out about it. Some of the twists, I think they thought the movie was smarter than it was. You could see a lot of that stuff coming a mile away, especially with the little girl right there and the relationship aspect. Come on. So yeah, this was just about average to me, and don't plan to rewatch it. So many better exorcism possession movies out there. Let me know what your favorite exorcism possession movie is. Exorcism of Emily Rose is underrated, I think, too, but I also think Last Exorcism is really underrated. The sequel was terrible, but Last Exorcism is the one that I really enjoy the heck out of. And it's interesting because it's from the same director of this one, and this one was a bit disappointing. The next few are ones that I have duplicates of. The new Rocky Knockout Collection. It doesn't have Blu-rays. It's just the 4K and digital, and it doesn't have all the films in the franchise, just 1 through 4. And I know the director of the first one got an Oscar, by the way, for Best Director, and he also directed the fifth one with Tommy Gunn, which I actually really liked that one. I remember liking that one for a long time. But yeah, John G. Avildsen. And let me know what your favorite boxing movie is. I feel like the top two, Rocky and Raging Bull. And then also, there's another tie-in with De Niro right there. Do you prefer Rocky or Taxi Driver? Because this won the Academy Award for Best Picture over Taxi Driver. Network, there's a few other films too. Personally, I would pick Raging Bull and Taxi Driver over Rocky. But Rocky's, a feel-good underdog story. But yeah, let me know which one of the sequels is your favorite in the collection too. This has the theatrical version and then the ultimate director's cut for Rocky 4. And I've heard there are some audio issues with this release. Now, I don't know how much of an emphasis there is on those inconsistencies and stuff with the audio. I remember before people were up in arms about the Friday the 13th Scream Factory release, and most of those issues were like a split second or, a second. And I know there's been audio issues before where people complain, and literally it's like off-camera audio that was, out of sync. Like, how could people tell that? It's off-camera, people talking, like, it just... So, and sometimes they're so minute, and I'm just like, these people just love to complain. How they even figure this out? Like, so I don't know if that's the case here, but I know in other issues, I feel like a lot of those things didn't really bother me or weren't worth even mentioning. I don't know if that's the case here or not, but I feel like there has been like kind of a wave of 4Ks with some issues, PQ and AQ wise. I don't know if that's going to be the case here or not. I haven't checked them out, but I have a duplicate of this one already, so that's why I'm getting rid of it. The Rocky collection right there, and I don't know if they're going to do with the rest of them or not at a later date. I actually thought this was, a smaller set than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like a big box set, or they were going to do like a steelbook set with all the films in there. Next up is Training Day. This is a classic right here, Denzel and Ethan Hawke, and this is directed by Antoine Fuqua. Let me know what your favorite Antoine Fuqua movie is. He's worked with Denzel, Equalizer. I'm looking forward to the next Equalizer movie too. And then also he's worked with Ethan Hawke a few times. Brooklyn's Finest, I think, is super underrated. Ethan Hawke's in there too. Antoine Fuqua directed that one, but I love that. If you're into, cop dramas and, thrillers and stuff like that, high recommendation. Great cast there too. That one does not get enough attention and love that it deserves, but this is an all-time classic. Only getting rid of it because I have another one of it. This one, the next few are ones that I got in a lot that were, pre-priced, and there was a big lot of them, and I wasn't going to haggle because the price was amazing. So I figured I could, use these to sell or for trade bait. I've done some trades actually recently. So there you go. I know there's some channels on here that are dedicated just to flipping. I don't want to do that, but I do want to share some deals every now and then when I get them. It's not a constant thing. So next up is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the 4K for it, which I love that cover art. The Steelbook version, which was released too, is like the classic poster artwork, which has a poster inside. This one doesn't have a poster, but that slipcover artwork is stellar. Let me know what your favorite Tobe Hooper movie is. and let me know what your favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie is in the franchise, if it's not the first one. And let me know what your favorite sequel is, or for that matter, movie outside of the first one, because there is the remake too. I think this is like my 6th favorite Tobe Hooper movie and my 5th favorite movie in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. I know I'm super in the minority. That might be like one of the only people ever. For me, Tobe Hooper, I'm going to put Life Force, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Poltergeist, Funhouse. I would put Salem's Lot, miniseries, I count that in there too. And then this one. And then for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, TCM 2, the remake, Beginning, and then I would put even Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Leatherface, I'd put that before this one. This definitely was super influential for low-budget horror, but for me, it just doesn't stand up. The character's so annoying, obnoxious, and I just love the rest of the franchise a lot more, or the ones that I mentioned. You know, there's obviously, the Leatherface one actually was pretty good. That one was just Leatherface, from the French directors who did Inside, which was so incredible, and Livid too. That one is underrated, but they directed the Leatherface movie. And there's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D, which terrible, has the worst line in horror movie history, "Do your thing, cuz." And then the recent one too that was on Netflix, and then was it The Next Generation with Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey. They have to regret doing that movie, but that one's kind of like cheesy and ridiculous, but has some, charm to it as well, because it's so absurd. But yeah, so let me know, am I the only one who is that down the line for Tobe Hooper and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise for picking this one? I still enjoy it, and I appreciate for what it did for horror movies, but it just doesn't hold up completely for me, and I prefer all other films mentioned over it. Next up is Belly. Really nice to add this to the collection. I watched this a lot growing up as a kid, so definitely happy to Buns and Sincere pick this up again. And I was a big fan of Nas growing up as a kid. He was my favorite rapper. I was big on Queensbridge. Let me know who your favorite rappers of all time. Nature, I always thought was really underrated. Again, part of the Queensbridge, and Foxy Brown, AZ, Cormega. So the Firm Biz, but Method Man's in here, T-Boz, DMX, kind of a redemptive tale by the end, but gritty, drugs, the different dynamic between the best friends right there and how they're on different paths. There's a Steelbook version of this too, which I do want to pick up, but I like the slipcover a lot for it. And it's fun because I bought the Blu-ray for this a few months back, and then literally the next night the 4K was announced. I feel like that's happened so many times to me. But happy to add this one to the collection. Nice release from Lionsgate. And then next up, you've got Black Adam right here. And this was a fun time. My girlfriend liked this a lot more than I did. I still enjoyed it though. And I know it's kind of a shame, controversial with James Gunn taking over and the DC, DCU just changing a bit in a lot of the cast. They're not going to be involved. And I know The Rock wanted to make a sequel, and it doesn't sound like that's going to happen currently. And this is directed by Jean Colette Serra, who did the House of Wax remake, which is actually like a remake of a remake with Paris Hilton. But the Vincent Price one was a remake of Mystery of the Wax Museum, which I love the heck out of that. All those are great, in fact. And I remember thinking oh, the Paris Hilton one was cheesy, and I rewatched it. I was like, it's not cheesy. It's actually awesome. Her death was great. The house itself was incredible. Some great kills in there. So love the heck of that. He also directed Orphan. The recent one, Orphan First Kill, was not as good as the first one. They waited too long, I think, to do the sequel, but the first Orphan was awesome. He also directed The Shallows, which I love that one. Great character-driven shark attack movie with Blake Lively. Got me into 4Ks, that one. In fact, I watched the Blu-ray, then watched the 4K, and I just thought it was so immersive, and the clarity and details were just incredible for me. So that got me hooked on 4K. But he's worked with The Rock before on Jungle Cruise. I know he's going to do Jungle Cruise 2. And then he's worked a few times with Liam Neeson, Unknown, Run All Night, Nonstop, Commuter. But the one that I think he didn't direct, which I think is one of the most underrated ones from Liam Neeson, is A Walk Among the Tombstones. I love that one, and nobody talks about that one. I feel like they mentioned so many of the other ones, but that's one of my favorites from Liam Neeson. But anyways, this was I digress. Let's get back to this. Black Adam, I thought was visually stunning. I enjoyed it, but I didn't necessarily love it. But it was cool to see the characters. My girlfriend loved it, so I'm keeping my one in the collection. But there you go. Here's the duplicates of it. I figure I'd go ahead and show you right there that I do have the duplicates. These are all duplicates right there except for Killer's Kiss. So again, I'll pick some deals up like that to, you know, resell or trade. Next up is Elvis, the biopic right there with Austin Butler and Tom Hanks, Baz Luhrmann film. Let me know what your favorite Baz Luhrmann movie is. We recently tried to watch the Romeo and Juliet movie. She wanted to see it, and she was telling me for years she wanted to see it. And she, you know, I don't have it in my collection. She would, you know, say, you got all these movies, you don't have Romeo and Juliet, your collection's trash. This and that. And we tried to sit down and watch it, and we both hated it. And she was begging to turn it off. I was like, no, you wanted to watch this. My collection's trash without this. That movie just, I don't remember loving it back then, and then rewatching it now, just the vernacular they used, that, you know, old English Shakespearean, it was clunky and awkward. And I feel like a lot of those movies that do that, that use that, you know, old world dialect, old English dialect, just don't really work. And just, I don't know, I could not, neither one of us could get into it. But he directed, I think he directed Australia too, but Moulin Rouge. He's done The Great Gatsby, the most recent one that's been done a few times. But yeah, so Baz Luhrmann, very stylistic. I did not care for this one. Everybody seemed to rave about it. Everybody seemed to rave about him, saying he looks just, he looked a little bit, but I don't think he's like as, you know, similar as everybody made it out to be. I didn't like the way the narrative structure with the manager, Tom Hanks's character, what was his name? That's Colonel, the Colonel guy, Colonel Tom Parker, is really from his perspective. And I don't know, I feel like that where there's a bit of emotional detachment that way. I would have appreciated it more, I think, from his perspective directly, or from the families, instead of Colonel Tom Parker's. I mean, they kind of go back and forth with it, but it's more so Colonel Tom Parker's view. But I don't know, I just didn't care for it. It was, you know, it's 159 minutes. It felt like about double that for me. Again, visually stunning, some great cinematography. I don't know, I just didn't care for it. And I feel like I'm in the minority in that one, so that one's gotta go. Next up, there's a few DC animated titles right here. And you've got Batman, The Doom That Came to Gotham, kind of an H.P. Lovecraft feel. Actually, it very much is. At the end, you know, they didn't really say Cthulhu until the very end. The one character said it, and I kind of wish they wouldn't say it, because all that buildup, and they never said that. They used different terminology. But yeah, it's a Cthulhu-esque, you know, big creature coming down. These people trying to, like this cult, trying to summon it. And Batman has to, you know, fight to survive and also save Gotham. And there was a lot of casualties in this movie, so it's a darker one for sure. So that was kind of surprising. DC animated movies, there's some really good ones. Let me know what your favorite DC animated movie. And Warner Brothers, not just releasing the DC animated titles, but also releasing the animated Mortal Kombat movies, which are so friggin' good. Especially Scorpion's Revenge. That's definitely my favorite. I would give a high recommendation for those. Bloody as heck too, but this is one I don't think I see myself revisiting, so that's got to go. I like the darker aspect of it, but next up is Green Lantern Beware. And it also has a little bit of a backstory for Gotham too, which was an interesting like take for some of the, you know, singular pivotal characters for the city of Gotham. But Green Lantern Beware My Power, I think it was cool to see a lot of the different characters here, but again, one that I don't see myself revisiting. Same thing with this one, Legion of Superheroes, focusing really more on Supergirl and going into the future and trying to stop the Dark Circle. You know, there's Brainiac 5, and they clash at first, and there's a romance aspect. Cool characters in here, but one I just don't see myself revisiting. Next up is Battle of the Super Sons. You know, Robin and essentially Superboy. So Boy Wonder. And yeah, they're again trying to, you know, save Earth essentially on this one. I think it was a bigger scope, but I don't know. This one falls flat for me. Probably my least favorite of these DC ones that are in this pile. And here's another DC one, DC League of Super Pets. I thought this was a fun time, but I have a duplicate of this too. And I didn't put it over here before the start of the movie, but I do have it. I thought this was entertaining, heartfelt, And I love the voice acting here too. Kevin Hart, Diego Luna, Thomas Middleditch, Ben Schwartz, Keanu Reeves, The Rock, Kate McKinnon, Natasha Lyonne, just so many, John Krasinski, so many people in the voice cast, and they really shined. And I thought this was a fun time, good, family movie as well. So I like that one, but only getting rid of it because of a duplicate. Next up is Minions: The Rise of Gru, this is another one where I actually have a duplicate of, and I haven't put it aside here, but I have another one of it. I thought this was a fun time. I liked it. I think it's actually one of my favorites in the Minions franchise. This is Minions: The Rise of Gru, kind of an origin story, if you will, but a fun time, cool characters, and entertaining for, I think, the whole family on that one. All right, next up, we've got Last Night in Soho. I was not a fan. I feel like I'm the only one that didn't like this one, too. I thought it was a bit formulaic and predictable. Like, you're having all the flashbacks and stuff. And I feel like from the age progression, it could only be one character, really. That would make sense. I feel like there's some red herrings there, and you can kind of tell it would be too easy if it was that way. So I just felt like when the big reveal happened, it was like, come on, you have to see that. If you watch movies, you're thinking, you can see that coming a bit. So I'm a big fan of Anna Taylor-Joy, though. I think she's an incredible actress. I can't wait to see what she does in the future. This is directed by Edgar Wright. The Cornetto trilogy, Shaun of the Dead was definitely my favorite of that. Amazing. I haven't seen the World's End, the last one, but Hot Fuzz was a bit of a mixed bag for me. I liked the first half, but not the second half. And then, he's done some other, I like seeing him do more in the horror realm, but Scott Pilgrim vs. the World too. That was a fun time. But this one, to me, a lot of people say this is horror, and I don't really like thriller for sure, but not horror. There was maybe 2 brief scenes where it was horror-esque. And besides that, it's mystery thriller. So murder mystery thriller. Let me know. Am I the only one that didn't like this one? I've just heard so many people rave about it. Next up are the John Wick movies, 1, 2, and 3. Let me know what your favorite modern action movie is. For me, it's the Raid movies. I talk about that endlessly, ad nauseum. And then I would even put, the Equalizer movies, the movie Nobody, and then Faster with The Rock. I feel like that one's super underrated for a modern action movie. I remember mentioning that to somebody, and they're like, Faster? Like the Fast and the Furious movies? I said, no. I think maybe people are getting confused because of the title there, but yeah, I prefer all those ones over the John Wick movies. I still enjoy them for what they are, popcorn action movies. Only reason I'm getting rid of these ones are because I got the Book Steelbook collection, which was such a beautiful, incredible, awesome release from Lionsgate. The design there, the detail, just chef's kiss, just awesome. So I'm getting rid of these ones because I don't need the standard 4Ks. So I'm going to have the Steelbooks for those on the Book sets, which is just an awesome collector's edition right there, and looks great on display. The presentation for it, incredible. So yeah, getting rid of those to kind of, I don't want to have multiple copies of everything. There's some that I collect multiple copies of. Let me know if there's any movies you collect multiple copies of, editions of. Like John Carpenter's The Thing's my all-time favorite movie. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I feel like I focus more on horror in that regard, but some of my all-time favorites I'll have multiple editions of. 30 Days of Night is another one. House on Sorority Row, Blood Diner, things like that. But some of these ones I've got to stop doing that. So that's where I'm at. Next up is Hell or High Water. I have the Lionsgate Steelbook for it. Again, Lionsgate is killing it with the Steelbooks. They're not the first one to do that, where it has the protective slipcover, which has artwork and reveals different artwork underneath. Mondo's been doing that for a while, even Mill Creek. But the Lionsgate has stepped it up by releasing so many of them and just, keeping it going with the great movie selections, the great artwork choices, and just, rolling out in, continuous fashion and being consistent with it, more so than any other company. Now we're seeing other companies, Paramount, doing them too. So I definitely like that, and they're just killing it. I can't wait to see what they do in the future, releasing-wise, for those Lionsgate Steelbooks. But Hell or High Water, really good modern Western. Jeff Bridges, Chris Pine, Ben Foster. Ben Foster, such an underrated actor. I feel like he deserves more leading roles. He's done a few, but I remember him back in the day, Alpha Dog, and of course 30 Days of Night and the Stranger character there. Really intense performances that he gives. But this is written by Taylor Sheridan, who was one of the creators for Yellowstone, which is my favorite show on TV currently. And then, also you have 1883. He definitely has a feel for Westerns, but he also wrote the Sicario movies too. He directed Wind River, which I love the heck out of that one. And then he directed this movie called Vile, which I remember checking out forever ago. I was not a big fan of that one, kind of like a bit of a Saw knockoff, if you will. But from that to all the other things that he's done, incredible. So I can't wait to see what he does in the future. Anything that he writes or directs, I will check out for sure. This one has that gritty feel. You can kind of feel for the brothers right there and what they are going through. Trying to get their family's land back and robbing banks. And you got the Texas Ranger, I think it is, for Jeff Bridges' character trying to stop them. Next up is 3:10 to Yuma. And this one right here was directed by James Mangold, who's directed a bunch of films that I really enjoy. Copland, which was written and it was based on a town that I used to live in New York. So I thought that was really interesting to me, but I've always loved that one. Felt that it was super underrated. He directed Girl Interrupted, Kate and Leopold, which surprised me that I liked that movie because I'm not big into romance movies, but that's a time travel romance movie. And, there's a couple of those out there. Was it the Christopher Reeves one, In Time? I'm not a fan of that one. I remember watching that one and people raved about it for a long time. So Kate and Leopold might be one of my favorite time travel romance movies. There's a few of them, actually, more than you'd really expect to. But he also directed Wolverine, Logan, which is one of my favorite comic book movies. It's definitely a darker take there. He also directed Identity, which is one that I love the heck out of. Great horror movie, all the twists and turns on different characters. And then Ford vs. Ferrari, and he's directing the new Indiana Jones movie, which I think is in post-production now. But this is a really good remake, 3:10 to Yuma. I think the original one might have a Criterion Collection release. And great performances here from Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. Only getting rid of this one because, again, I picked up the Lionsgate Steelbook for it. Lionsgate killing it. And that's going to be a common theme because that's the case for the last two as well, the Punisher movies. Punisher with Thomas Jane and John Travolta, and then Punisher Warzone right here, which is, what is that guy's name, the lead guy in here? Ray Stevenson, who was, I think, intense in the role. And there's also the old Dolph Lundgren 80s Punisher movie, which we don't have a Blu-ray release for in the US, but it has released in other countries. I feel like we need it here. It was a US movie. Bring that one to Blu-ray. I haven't seen that since I was a kid, but I remember being cheesy fun. And then there's, John Barenthal for the Punisher TV series. He is great. They need to have him in a movie as the Punisher. Intense. Let me know what your favorite Punisher movie is and who your favorite actor is who's played the Punisher. Again, John Barenthal, Ray Stevenson, Thomas Jane, Dolph Lundgren, and who you'd like to see portray the Punisher in the future in a movie if it's not one of the ones that I just mentioned. And let me know what your favorite Western movie is of all time. This is, kind of a modern one, but that's, another modern one, but a remake. But some, Magnificent Seven remake was directed by Antoine Fuqua, which, again, Training Day in there. But there you go. That's what didn't make the shelf. All 4Ks, 24 titles. Some duplicates, some ones that are upgrades that I got, the steelbooks and stuff for, and I'm just not going to keep duplicates of it. I was debating for a while. I like the, slipcover of something. I like the artwork different for this one, but I was like, I got to stop doing it. I like the Punisher movies, but I don't need multiple copies of them. Space is at a premium. And, there's some ones in here that I just didn't like, even if it's, popular opinion, like Last Night in Soho or Elvis, that, it's, universally loved. Just because that's the case doesn't mean you have to like it. There's a lot of movies that are, universally loved that I don't like. The two most overrated movies in horror movie history, I think, are The Blair Witch Project and then Paranormal Activity. Those are pretty much universally beloved, and I can't stand either one of them. But I like the Blair Witch, the more recent one, which wasn't a remake. It was kind of a sequel, follow-up. And then the Paranormal Activity, I like a lot of the sequels in there. Even the recent one was a Last of Kin. Different, but I love that one so much. And I feel like kind of the ending for both of those ones, the recent Blair Witch and then the Last of Kin Paranormal Activity, somewhat similar. But there you go. Those are all of the titles right there. Oh, one more question for you. What is your favorite biopic movie? Elvis would not be mine. Raging Bull, I mentioned before, might be the one for me. But there we go. Those are all the titles that didn't make the shelf. Let me know, again, if you've seen any of them, what you think of them, which one is your favorite, all the questions I asked. Leave me those comments down below. I like the interaction on here. I like hearing differing opinions as well. Again, I have some opinions that, may not line up for, the popular choice again. Some of the ones that I mentioned already. But, that's what makes this fun. If we all have the same opinion, all movies would be the same. It would be monotonous, be super formulaic and predictable, even more so than it already is for the majority right there. But again, this is cathartic for me. I want to trim the collection down in half, but I've hit a bit of an impasse. I've gotten rid of so many movies over the years, so this is a fun thing for me to do. You guys seem to like these videos, so expect more of them in the future. And there you go. That's what didn't make the shelf, aka the collection. 24 titles, all 4Ks. Again, there are some duplicates and upgrades and stuff like that, and there are some ones I just didn't like and don't plan to watch again. And if I can't see myself rewatching, gotta go. All right. Thank you guys for staying with me, for all the support on here on the years. I really do appreciate it. I still love talking movies and collecting on here. It is a fun time. This is a great platform. I've had a lot of cool opportunities and made some great friends. So thank you so much, and hope everybody's doing well. Take care.